The Wednesday Warmup. And welcome back to the Wednesday Warmup. I'm Danielle Dubois alongside my co-host Millan Jane. Now, Millan, we are getting ready to go into week 9 of the NFL season. So at the end of today's episode, we are going to give our intakes of who we think is going to make it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they probably won't be right, and they're just educated guesses based on what we've seen so far in the season. But you never know, and we thought it would be a pretty fun segment to do. But as of right now, we're going to jump into the Thursday night game. The Thursday night game is the 5-2 Packers take on the 4-4 49ers. This is going to be a very fun game to watch. I'd say the 49ers played the Seahawks last week, and that was a pretty interesting game until the 49ers broke down and lost Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle. Now, this is going to be a huge toll on them, especially because Jimmy Garoppolo just got back in after an ankle injury, and then he re-injured his ankle. So that is a huge setback for the 49ers, especially with George Kittle being out as well, being one of the top tight ends in the league. So I'm going to give it to the Packers, and they have Aaron Rodgers and great offensive weapons that we've seen them use the past 5 games that they've won. So I'm going to give it to them. Millan, what do you say?
Yeah, I have to agree with you for all the reasons you said. You know, they're 4-4 right now, and I was excited for them because they just starting to figure out who they were as a team. You know, they were kind of inconsistent. Garoppolo comes back after that ankle injury, and he beat New England, and they're like, okay, maybe they could be a legit team. And now they go down, and now this is going to be that Niners team. They're like, okay, it's going to be Arizona and Seattle in this division, maybe the Rams. So yeah, I'm giving the Packers pretty much an embarrassing loss where they got ran all over by Dalvin Cook. And so I think the Packers are going to bounce back on this game, and get revenge from the NFC Championship game and win this game.
Going into these Sunday games, we have their first 1 o'clock game being the 1-7 Giants and the 2-5 Washington football team. I was talking to Millan about this beforehand, and I am not excited for this game because it's not going to be interesting. And as many people would be like, oh, no, I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. Yes, it is going to be a high-scoring game because neither teams will play defense. When teams are this bad, going 2-5, 1-7, they most of the time don't have a defense to back it up. Their offense can score, but they don't have the defense to back it up and to actually win games. Now, we've seen this with both of these teams. So considering that they're playing each other, I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. But I'm going to give it to the Washington football team because they've won 2 games. They've looked pretty solid the 2 games that they won. I mean, one of them being the Cowboys, but that's not really hard to do. But I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah, and I have to, like you said, this is going to be – the Giants should have won that football game last Monday. You know, there was everything pointed out that they should have won the football game. Daniel Jones has made a couple of bad mistakes, and they're playing a team between, like you said, these 2 teams are not very good. But between these 2 defenses, I think Washington's clearly the better defense. Now, they're not good. They're not, like, amazing by any chance, but they're clearly the better team. And I think they're going to absolutely steamroll Daniel Jones and force him to throw many interceptions and get into a lot of trouble. So I think because of that, I think the Washington football team is going to take it.
The next 1 o'clock game is the 5-3 Bears take on the 5-2 Titans. Both teams have won 5 games. The Bears have come out with a lot of fire this year that we talk about pretty often on this show. They've showed that they can win games, that they can be a consistent team, which is very shocking with the Bears because most of the time they'll win a game and lose a game. It's pretty inconsistent with them, but they've been pretty consistent this year. But I'm going to give it to the Titans for one reason only, Derrick Henry. Now, Ryan Tannehill is a great quarterback, but the real talent on offense is Derrick Henry, and the Bears do not have the defense to stop Derrick Henry. He's such a hard running back to stop. The Steelers did a great job stopping him as much as they could. I mean, they obviously let up a few runs by him, but that's common, especially being Derrick freaking Henry, the best running back in the league right now. So the Bears aren't even close to the Steelers defense, so I feel like they're not going to have a chance at stopping the run against it. I'm going to give it to the Titans.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game for me because the Bears do have a great defense. Don't get me wrong. But then again, Derrick Henry's on another level. They did a very good job with Alvin Kamara last week in their loss against the Saints. But Alvin Kamara and Derrick Henry are 2 different types of people. And it's going to be a very interesting way to see how Derrick Henry plays against Khalil Mack and this running defense. That being said, Tannehill, I'd have to disagree with you on this one a little bit. I think that Tannehill is a very good quarterback. I think he's just finding his way. I think that the Miami situation that I think was a misrepresentation of him. I think he's a lot better on the Titans and could be an MVP candidate. I don't think he'll go to him, but I think he's in the running for that. Just turn this Tennessee team around. Nonetheless, Tennessee came off of a really ugly loss against Cincinnati. I think they're going to get back to it. I think they just have enough pieces to go win this game, and I'm going to give this one to the Tennessee Titans.
And just to clarify, I wasn't saying Tannehill was a bad quarterback. He's just not living up to his fullest potential. And if you were to look at their offense, their main reason that their offense does so well is Derrick Henry. Now, Tannehill is still good, and he throws some pretty good passes. If he's a top 10 quarterback or not, I wouldn't really agree with that, but that's not the debate. But, I mean, offensively, Derrick Henry is where it's at for the Titans. And when people think, oh, the Titans offense, they're like, oh, Derrick Henry, like right away. The next 1 o'clock game is the 3-4 Lions take on the 2-5 Vikings. This was a really interesting game. I looked over this game before we started filming, and it didn't really process in my mind. And now I'm sitting here, I'm like, the Vikings versus the Lions. Wow, okay. The Vikings have only won 2 games, one of them being last week, which I didn't think was going to happen. But, I mean, they came out and they played surprisingly well, which doesn't happen very often this season. So that kind of took me by surprise, especially because I said that the Packers were going to win that game, and that was my lock. So kind of wrong there, but we're going to move past that. Coming off of that win, I think they have the fire and the drive, and I think they're going to want to keep up the momentum and get back the wins that they've lost out on, that they've kind of been slacking on the past 5 games that they lost. So I think I'm going to give it to the Vikings. If they have the same drive that they had last week, I mean, they're going to come out here and just run all over the Lions. But the Lions have been great, so.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think Minnesota's going to take this one. Dalvin Cook completely ran over all over Green Bay's defense, and I don't think it's going to happen again this week. And it was surprising that he ran over a great Green Bay team. I think Kirk Cousins got to throw the ball a little bit more, especially in the third and fourth quarters. But I still think between Dalvin Cook and this defense of Minnesota's that's getting better, I'm gonna give this one to the Vikings.
The next game is the 3-5 Panthers take on the 7-1 Chiefs. Now, obviously, I'm going to give this one to the Chiefs, but the Panthers haven't looked awful, considering that they lost their quarterback and the quarterback went to the New England Patriots. They're doing surprisingly well. They've come out with a drive. They want to win. They obviously took a very sad loss after week 2 with Christian McCaffrey being hurt, but Christian McCaffrey is supposed to play this week. This is his first week back after a really bad ankle injury. He's been out for 7 weeks now. It's been rough recovery. He's going to be having to get back into it and relearn the ropes. He's still projected to do really well. I was looking at that today. He's still projected to get 22 fantasy points, which is a lot, especially coming off of an ankle injury. But like I said, it's the Chiefs. Even if you have Christian McCaffrey, you're not going to win against the Chiefs. If they do, I would be really shocked, not going to lie. But the Chiefs, they have the unstoppable offense. Their defense has looked a lot better going forward. Obviously, last week it wasn't as good as it could have been, but they've overall a great team. And the Panthers, I think they'll put a good amount of points on the board, but I don't think it's going to be anything to compare to the Chiefs offense.
Yeah, I was thinking McCaffrey's coming back, and the Chiefs are the 23rd ranked run defense in the NFL, which isn't good. And no shot. So I think, and you're facing a McCaffrey guy that's been explosive. But nobody knows how he's going to come back because ankle injuries, you can come back from anywhere. I'm predicting that McCaffrey's not going to miss a beat. He's going to run all over this struggling Chiefs secondary and run defense. Problem is you're playing Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, at the end of the day, the Chiefs are one of the elite teams in the NFL, and what do elite teams do? They're able to adjust on the fly and make adjustments. And I think eventually they're going to slow McCaffrey down enough so they won't be a big impact and force him to throw the ball. And I think when you're playing Patrick Mahomes, you need to score as many points. And when you take out the number one way of scoring in the run, it's going to be tough. So I'm having the Chiefs win this one, go 8-1.
And what I think is going to be interesting to keep watching throughout the season as Christian McCaffrey comes back is if he's going to stay in or if he's going to re-injure his ankle. Ankle injuries are very common in the NFL. It's super easy to hurt your ankle. I've done it multiple times in my running career. I mean, being a running back, getting tackled by huge guys is probably way worse than just running and tripping on a stick like me. But seeing Garoppolo with the ankle injury, he came back. He was on fire. He was doing great. He was acting like he hadn't even gotten hurt in the first place. And then immediately, just like that, he's out again. So I think it's going to be interesting to monitor if he ends up being a kind of Garoppolo kind of situation and he goes back out or not. So that'll be interesting. The next 1:00 game is the 1-6 Texans versus the 1-6 Jaguars. So pretty even matchup. I'm going to say the Texans on this one, which is, I feel I'm going to get a little bit of hate. I don't know why. I just feel like people are going to have a really different opinion than I am. But I feel like the Texans have the offense to win against the Jaguars. Gardner Minshew has not been showing up as a quarterback this year and hasn't been playing to his fullest potential. So I think offensively, if the Texans can put up a good enough score on the board, then the Jaguars won't be able to come back.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that Gardner Minshew is now downgraded to questionable. Obviously, with that injury last week, I don't know if he's going to be playing or not. If he does, I mean, obviously, it won't make a big difference if he plays or not. Number one, you're also facing on the other side of Deshaun Watson, who is arguably top 10, in my opinion, in the league as a quarterback. And so, with his ability and the complete utter horribleness of a Jacksonville defense, it's going to be a really one-sided game. So I'm giving this one to the Texans.
The next 1:00 game is the 5-2 Ravens take on the 5-2 Colts, another even matchup. Now, the Ravens just came off of playing Steelers, gave the Steelers a run for their money. They stayed in it until the very last few plays of the games. They could have come back and won it all, but they unfortunately didn't, and they lost by 4 points. But they played really well against the Steelers, and I knew going into it that they were going to have that sort of drive, especially because Ravens-Steelers is a huge matchup in their division. It was a huge game. Everyone was watching it and kind of really shocked about like what was going to happen because it's always been a super close game between the two teams. Now, the Ravens, I think they're going to come off that and they're fired up. Like they want to win a game. They want to prove like, okay, like we still got it. They're still a great team overall, great offensively, great defensively. They didn't do as well as I thought they were going to do against the Steelers defensively, but the Steelers are a really hard team to stop when they're on offense. So it makes sense. I feel like they won't have a problem stopping the Colts offense. So I'm going to give it to the Ravens.
Yeah, both coming off of the Steelers game, both teams had flaws that they had to fix. Number one, Lamar Jackson. That's the biggest thing you have to fix. And I think his validity as a QB was in question. Now, number one, I still think he's one of the best QBs in the NFL, but I think that's been questioned a lot, because when he plays really good team, like he's shredded defenses. Don't get me wrong, he can shred defense like the Eagles, but he can't. This year, he showed that he can't play against a good defense. He couldn't play against. He looked absolutely terrible against Kansas City, and he did okay against Pittsburgh. He did amazing on the ground. Obviously, he rushed for like him and Mark and the running backs rushed for 200, whatever, and just tore Pittsburgh on the ground. But in the air, did not do well at all. And he's gonna have to be forced to throw the ball. And if he can't show that he can throw the ball accurate and without any picks, it's gonna be tough for him. I think this is the game where he can get back to what he's been doing best, is throwing the ball, finding areas. Because against Pittsburgh, all time in his 2 games against Pittsburgh, he's thrown 5 interceptions. Only 3 touchdowns and lost the ball like 5 times as well. And those are not good stats against an elite team. You're going to have to show that you can throw the ball and be accurate with it. And against this struggling secondary of Indianapolis, who was good in the beginning of the season, who was very good in the beginning of the season, but now they've dropped off. I think they're going to get Lamar to throw the ball more, fix that accuracy and his confidence, and I think they're going to win this game, not let alone the rushing game, because their rushing game is probably, in my opinion, one of the best in the NFL, as we saw last week. And so between those 2 combinations, I think Baltimore is going to get this one.
The next 1:00 game is the 6-1 Seahawks and the 6-2 Bills. This is an interesting game. I didn't know that they're playing each other until now. The Bills have done really great this year. Obviously, they beat the Patriots, but that wasn't really a surprise. I mean, it was a close game, and I must say the Patriots did really well staying in it. I didn't think they were going to. But the Bills, Josh Allen has looked amazing. He's finally starting to pick up the new NFL kind of experience. He's really gotten into it. He's kind of gotten into his role as a quarterback, and he's done a great job leading the Bills offense. The Bills offense has never really been strongly led and like actually made into really great decisions until now. So with this kind of leadership, they've really taken off as a team, and they're all unified. They all want to play a good competitive game, and they go out and they're like, hey, like, we might not win, but we're going to give it our all. And you see that every week. And that's why they have a 6-2 record. So I really appreciate that about the Bills, that they've improved that. While on the other side, we have the Seahawks, which are amazing offensively. You have Lockett, Metcalf, Russell Wilson, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Defensively, the Seahawks can be doing a lot better. I've seen them make a lot of defensive mistakes that shouldn't be really happening, especially this late in the season. But I think the Seahawks are going to win this game for their 7th win.
Yeah, I like, both these teams. I can appreciate where they're at. And, we knew Josh Allen was going to be better than he was the past 2 seasons, but I didn't expect him to be that a lot better. And this could be me. I don't think he's been playing the best ever since his first loss against Tennessee. He's still finding ways to win, and I think that's what matters. And then on the other side, it's 2 MVP candidates going up against each other, Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's been playing out of his mind this year. Obviously, had a struggle game against Arizona, a bounce-back game against San Francisco. And this will be another good test for Seattle against a really good Bills team. Seattle, one problem of error, like you said, is Seattle's defense, ranked 20th in the NFL right now, which isn't good. It's not bad, but it isn't good. And you also have, Russell Wilson in Seattle in the offense to bail you out. And I think this will be a game for the defense. See, against a good defense in Buffalo, what happens if, for some reason, Russell Wilson gets shut down? Will the defense be able to step up? And I think they will be able to.
The last 1:00 game of this week is the 3-4 Broncos take on the 2-6 Falcons. This is a pretty interesting matchup. I can see you saying one different answer than I am. I honestly would give it to the Broncos because of how bad the Falcons are and how they have a past. But I'm not going to. I'm going to give it to the Falcons just because I really have a lot of hope in them because they have so many offensive weapons and everything. Their defense just cannot keep it up and can't stop another team from scoring in the end. So it's a little upsetting because I know how much potential they have and they don't use it at all. But they've still struggled after they've got rid of their head manager and their coach. And I thought they were going to pick it up and start winning games like crazy and actually kind of make a comeback in their season. I was wrong considering their losing streak hit 6. But I have hope that they can stand up against the Broncos just because the Broncos don't have a good offense nor a good defense. Most of the time, if you have a good offense, then it's okay if your defense is a little bit worse. But that's not the case in this way because you can't rely off of the Broncos offense to lead you anywhere if it's going downhill. The Broncos easily won against the Patriots. That wasn't hard to do this year. And they've had some pretty good wins considering they've won one more game than the Falcons have, but I'm going to give it to the Falcons.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you on this one. I'm going to give this one to the Broncos. Now, because the Broncos are not a very, very good team. They did come back from I think it was a 24-point deficit in the fourth quarter alone against a very good Chargers team. And I think they're not awful. I think their offense is okay. I think they're getting better each week. And it gets a Falcons team that we haven't seen any consistency in. And, it'd be different if we've seen some consistency, but we just haven't yet. And I think with this momentum that the Broncos came back with against a very good Chargers team, I'm going to give this one to them.
The first 4:00 game is the 4-3 Raiders at the 2-5 Chargers. Now, the Chargers, we've always talked about their quarterback, Justin Herbert, and how he's doing a really great job as a rookie and showing us that Chargers could win. I mean, I don't think that they're going to win this game. I'm going to give it to the Raiders just because the Raiders are more of an overall better team than the Chargers. While the Chargers can put points on the board, it's stopping the other team consistently, what they have a problem with. So if they can't consistently stop the Raiders, I don't think they'll be able to win that game.
Yeah, this would be interesting. In order to win a football game, you got to play a full 60 minutes. And if you can't play full 60 minutes, and you're not going to do well. And that's what we haven't seen the Chargers do. Obviously Justin Herbert looks like a rookie of the year type of player, but his defense hasn't shown anything. And against a pretty good Raiders team, it's shown that they can play football. I'm going to give this one to them. I think the Raiders are going to be able to play a full 60 minutes and win this game.
The next game is the 7-0 Steelers take on the 2-6 Cowboys. I'm going to give this one to the Steelers. Not surprising at all. The Cowboys are a really bad team. We've discussed this multiple weeks in the past, and they haven't shown at all that they can do anything really well, especially after 2 quarterbacks of them going down. That's got to be some sort of record. I don't see many football teams flying through quarterbacks this bad, but the Cowboys are not a good overall team. They can't stop the ball. They can't put points on the board. You can't ask both things from them. Maybe they'll be able to score in one game, and it's like, that's great. Like, sure, you can score a lot of points. If you don't have the defense, though, and you're just letting the other team run all over you, it's not going to matter. And same opposite way, they don't have either talent on both sides of the road. Now, Steelers 7-0, amazing team. They have a great offense, the number 1 defense. So it's just going to be a clear blowout of the Steelers, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna get into a lot of this. I think they had a lot of things to fix, and I think the run defense did not do very well against Baltimore. Baltimore was able to get it to the outside and get some rushing yards there. I think Pittsburgh will do a good job. I think the reason why Pittsburgh won is, you don't have to blow out a team and be a dominant team to win a game. The big thing of being a championship is winning when it's ugly, and I think that's why Pittsburgh last week proved that they're the best team in the NFL right now, is to prove that they can win when it gets ugly. When the time gets disgusting, they can still pull out a win. And I think that's what you need, because games in the playoffs are going to get ugly. Playoff games get ugly. And if Pittsburgh can show that they can get ugly and win games, I think that's fine. Now, we're playing a Dallas Cowboys team that, don't have Andy Dalton. They also just made a statement that they're going to bench Ben DiNucci, who started against the Eagles, which basically means they're going to start either an AAF quarterback, an American Athletic Football quarterback, named Garrett Gilbert, or a practice squad quarterback, Cooper Rush. Now, against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense like this, they're going to get absolutely smothered. Not to mention that the Steelers picked up Avery Williamson from the New York Jets, who's an all-pro, Pro Bowl type guy who's going to make a big defense and a step up from Devin Bush. And on the offensive side of the ball, like you said, it's picky poison on the offense. Claypool, is it Juju, is it Deontay Johnson, is it Connor? Is it Ebron? Is it McDonald's? They're a very hard team to stop. Baltimore did a great job, but then they all came back to Ben. Ben was the reason why they won this game. Ben was 3 for 14 at the half against Baltimore. And basically Mike Tomlin said, this game is yours. Here's the keys. I'll let you drive it. And we saw Ben go no huddles. He chose the plays, and he basically said, hey, this is backyard football. It's my show. He ran it, and led the comeback. And so I think it's going to be a very clear game. I think Pittsburgh is going to absolutely dominate this team and continue on being 8-0.
The next team that we have to talk about is the 4-3 Dolphins take on the 5-2 Cardinals. Both teams have done pretty surprisingly well this year, which is pretty scary, especially because the Dolphins are second in their division right now. Let that sink in. They're not above the Patriots very often, so this is interesting. They're taking on the 5-2 Cardinals, which are looking amazing. Kyler Murray is a amazing quarterback. I didn't know he had this much talent until this year, and I'm glad he finally stepped up and showed that he can lead their team offensively, and they can stop the ball too. They gave the Seahawks a run for their money, and it was an interesting game when they played each other, and the Cardinals really showed that they are an NFL team. They can actually compete. They're like, hey, we aren't just some sad team that you forget about. We are actually here to play this year. And I'm amazed. I'm really shocked at the Cardinals. I'm really proud of their progress that they've made. I'm going to give this one to the Cardinals. The Dolphins are great, but I don't think they have the offense or the defense to hold up to the Cardinals.
But this will be an interesting game. We saw Tua come out in his first game and played pretty well. I think against a very good Rams team. And I think we also saw the defense of the Miami Dolphins play really well. Nonetheless, I think the Cardinals are a little bit better. I think obviously, like you said, we've seen Kyler Murray play a lot better than we saw. And maybe it's because they had DeAndre Hopkins to their team. I don't know, but it's a very good Cardinals team that will make a wild card team. I think. I don't think they'll beat Seattle. I don't think they'll be anywhere near Seattle. But this will be a really good game. I think the Cardinals are going to pull it out.
The Sunday night game is the 5-2 Saints take on the 6-2 Buccaneers. Now, the Saints and the Buccaneers, the very first week of the NFL season, they played each other. Tom Brady came out and looked exactly like the last season New England Patriots Tom Brady. So he kind of came out and he was playing against the Saints and just got crushed. And I was like, yeah, Tom Brady not going to do it this year. But he has obviously made a return and proved that he really is the GOAT, and he's really great and has proven, hey, I'm going to lose one game here or there, but I'm not going to let that stop me. And he's led a great team this year. And so, honestly, I thought this from the beginning that they were going to split. So the Saints were going to win one and the Buccaneers were going to win one. And I'm still going to stick with that. I'm going to say that the Bucs are going to win because I think they have a better defense than the Saints. The Saints defense is not very consistent. Even though they've only lost 2 games, I feel like it's not consistently super good. And I think they make a lot of mistakes that you shouldn't be making. And so I think that's just going to cost them, because you make one defensive mistake against Tom Brady, you're going to have an issue, especially because they're adding Antonio Brown into that mix this week. So adding that into their offense, it's just an pick your poison offense like we were talking about with the Steelers. So I think the Buccaneers are going to take this one.
Yeah, Antonio Brown is going to be – it'll be interesting to see how much playing time and catches he'll get. Obviously, because this is studded, on paper, good Buccaneers team. The Saints, they looked good last week. I think they were able to pull out a win. But I think this Buccaneers team, they should have lost against Tampa Bay – against the Giants. But then again, they did something that elite teams do, is they made adjustments at the half, and they were able to go and win that game. You know, they won ugly, and that's the biggest test for a team, is can you win an ugly game? This game won't be. I don't think this game will be ugly, but I think Tom Brady, with the addition of Antonio Brown, is just going to be a very, very good game. And I think their defense gotten a lot better. You know, they can play consistently good defense. This Tampa Bay team is going to be very tough to beat. And I think they could give Seattle the run for the money. And if they played, I would give this game to Tampa Bay if they played Seattle. And so saying Tampa Bay is playing at their fullest potential. But I do like Tampa Bay in this one. I think they have keys that are clicking for them finally, and it's gonna be a fun season to see where they end up.
The last game of the week is the Monday night game. The 2-5 Patriots, really hurts me to say, and the 0-8 Jets. Now, I'm scared. As a Patriots fan, I'm genuinely scared, because people are probably like, Danielle, there's no reason to, like, calm down. It's the Patriots. Like, they always win against the Jets. No. This is different this year. This is different. They're 2-5. The Patriots have not shown that they are a good team, let alone a consistent team. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Jets win this game, because the Patriots don't have anything that's going for them. Like, I can't sit here and be like, I think the Patriots are going to win because there is no this. There's no good factor going in for them. They have Cam, but Cam started off the first game, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, this might not be as worrisome as as I thought. Like, heck, he might be really great. And he's not. He sadly is just not done anything. We were about to win against the Bills. It got down to the very last minute, and he fumbled the ball. It was so close. It was such a close game. It was a very good game. They showed that they can stay in it at least. But doing those kind of things just shows that you're not an overall good team. You can't make those kind of stupid mistakes going in. So I feel like the Jets could win this game. I feel like the Patriots could also. I really don't have a good answer. I feel like either way I'm in the wrong, because if I say the Patriots win and the Jets win, I look pretty bad. But if I say the Jets are going to win, it's also going to look bad, because they don't have anything at all going for them.
Yeah, this is tough. You know, I got the question throughout this entire week: what's going to happen first, a Jets win or a Steelers loss? I still think it'll be a Jets win, but I don't think it'll be this game. You know, I think as bad as the Patriots are, no offense, I think they're not as bad as the Jets. You know, the Jets are bad, and they got rid of their best defensive player, to Avery Williams, who went to the Steelers, thank God. And so I think people also underestimating how good this Patriots defense is. It's pretty good. They held Buffalo pretty well, and they gave Cam Newton a shot. And I think against this really, really bad Jets team, I think Cam Newton will be able to, get the job done. It may be an ugly win, but I think that the Patriots will still win this game.
Yeah, I would hold out hope, but I don't want to get hurt in the end, so I'm just going to say the Jets are going to win and then be happy if I'm wrong on here.
This could be one of the best games of the week, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very interested for this game.
It honestly could. This and the Bucs and the Saints game, I think, are going to be the two best games this week. I don't know. Surprisingly, though, last week I was flipping through channels and there were some games that I was just like, oh, it's going to be blowout of this team. All games last week were surprisingly very close, which is worrisome on so many different parts, but it was also very interesting to watch. Millan, quickly say your lock, and then we're going to get on to some other fun things.
I'm going to give it to the Texans here, being the Jaguars. I think I'm most likely going to predict that Gardner Minshew will not be playing in this game, and I think against Deshaun Watson, that's going to be a really tough game to win.
There's no good game to have a lock. If I was confident in my team and thought they were good, I could say the Patriots because it's super easy to put a lock against the Jets, but I don't trust them. So I'm going to go the Seahawks against the Bills, which is kind of interesting because it's going to be a really close game, I think. But I'm going to say Russell Wilson can pull it out in the end. I have hope in him.
Okay.
So now we are going to move on to who we think is going to be the two teams going to the Super Bowl, with just a short explanation of why, as of right now, standings. Millan, take it away, because I think I know one of your teams.
I'm going to start with the NFC side of the ball here. I think there's a lot of good different teams here in the NFC. I think, you got the Packers, you got the Saints, arguably, you got Buccaneers, you got Seahawks, you got the Cardinals. I'm giving my NFC North champion is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like what they're doing on all sides of the cylinder. And I think they're better than the Seahawks. I think Seahawks have a great offense, don't get me wrong, but they also have a struggling defense. And I think Tampa Bay has both offense and defense. And that's what you need to win a football game. So I'm giving this one to the Seahawks, to the Buccaneers. On the AFC side of the ball, yes, this is going to be tough. You got Pittsburgh and you got Kansas City. I'm giving both of those. Both of them have great teams, and they're both solid on every side of the ball. I like what both teams have. I think Pittsburgh's one of the best teams in the NFL, and they've showed it. They've beaten some good teams defensively, offensively. But everyone's going to hate me for this. I got to give it to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think if Kansas City, Pittsburgh played on a neutral field, I think Patrick Mahomes would just be a little bit better. And I think, and that's just right now. I think as what we've seen right now, I think Patrick Mahomes has been playing pretty much better. Not saying because Pittsburgh's still trying to figure themselves out. I think maybe like throughout as the year goes on, Pittsburgh will get better and better and better. But I think as right now, where we are right now, I think Kansas City is a little bit better than Pittsburgh, but not by much. So I'm going to give this one to Kansas City versus Tampa Bay. Who comes out? I think Kansas City is going to come out and win this game. I like what they're doing on both sides of the ball. You can't count against Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it happen once with his knee injury. He came out and won the Super Bowl. So I'm giving this one to Kansas City Chiefs.
That honestly shocked me. I thought you were going to be like, guys, hold up, Steelers. And I was going to be like,
yeah.
I was going to be so sad. Okay, people are going to hate me, and y'all can fight back in the comments if you want. I want to know your opinion. But I high-key think if the Steelers and the Chiefs are the two teams fighting for the AFC championship, I think that is going to be a better game than the Super Bowl. Which, is debatable. Yes, I know. But,
yeah.
Those are, I'd say, the two best teams in the NFL overall right now. And if that keeps up, it's going to be an amazing game, guys. It's going to be probably a low-scoring game because it's going to be pretty defensively, it's going to be a defensive game. But I think it's going to be so interesting to watch. That's not the debate here anyways. It's the Super Bowl that matters. I honestly was going to say the exact same thing as you, but since you said something – I was going to say I'm going to change it up a little bit so we get a little bit of spice in here. I'm going to say the Seahawks instead of Tampa Bay. Now, honestly, I'd love to see the Seahawks and Tampa Bay also in the NFC Championship game. That would be so interesting as well. I think those two games will be even better than the Super Bowl. That's so good. But the Seahawks, I agree with you that their defense isn't where it needs to be, but it's gotten better. They've fixed some things that they need to work on. Now, of course, they still have lots of stuff that they can work on and really dumb mistakes that they shouldn't still be making, but they are. I think they can fix those before Super Bowl time. We still have a good amount of the NFL season left. So I think they have chances to fix that and opportunities with multiple other really good teams that they're going to be playing to fix. So you can never go wrong with Russell Wilson. I mean, you can never go wrong with Tom Brady too, but I'm going to switch it up. On the AFC side, I'm going to have to agree with you on the Chiefs because I do feel like if it comes down to the Chiefs and the Steelers, which it's looking like it will, I agree that Patrick Mahomes will go out and beat the Steelers. Now, even though they're such a good team, and I like to see them play now and then later on in the season too, because that would be pretty fun and interesting to see like the growth between the two teams. But like you're saying, you can never doubt Patrick Mahomes. He's such a good quarterback, and even if the problems are defensively, he's like, guys, calm down. I got it. Like, I know what I'm doing. And with him being so young, and Ben, I know he has the experience, and I know he has the Super Bowl experience as well. Patrick Mahomes, he just has so much left of his career to go, and I think he's climbing up the top, and he's getting ready to go in a Super Bowl again. So I think nothing's going to stop him from getting to another Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, just right now, I give it to Chiefs. I don't know how Pittsburgh's going to do the rest of the season. I think we have time. And I think Pittsburgh can obviously get better, and they're already great now. And imagine what they're going to be like better come playoff time. But it'll be very interesting to see what Pittsburgh can become and what Kansas City can become. So I think Pittsburgh has a better defense than Kansas City by a long shot, but I think Kansas City has a better offense.
I also think that the Chiefs have actually had they've had to play some pretty bad teams, but they've also had to play some really good teams. So they have gotten used to playing good teams as well. Where the Steelers, a lot of their opponents have been like mediocre. Like Ravens, I think were their most competition. But I think in order for the defense to get used to that, like really good teams, you're going to need to play really good teams. And for the next few weeks, the Steelers aren't. So I think that's the thing that's going to kind of hold them back if they do play the Chiefs in the end, is they're not used to playing such a good team, let alone Patrick Mahomes on offense. So the thing is they can run the ball if they want to, but they're like, we can also have Patrick Mahomes chuck it down the field, get a touchdown. They have both sides. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a pain for Steelers, but I don't know. We'll never know.
Because I think one thing that's getting overlooked by the Steelers is yes, they played some pretty crappy teams, but they've also beat Tennessee on the road, and they'll beat Baltimore on the road. Two teams, it's tough to win against those two teams, let alone win it on the road. Like you said, if you can't run the ball, how is it going to be passing? It'll be interesting. So, yeah, Pittsburgh has a really good passing offense, but it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's picky. The Steelers have yet to play, I think, in my opinion, offense on when it comes to the air. That's picky poison. On the ground, we've seen it. They've been able to shut down for the most part, except for Baltimore. But they haven't really played a team that has weapons for wide receivers. I think that's what Kansas City stands alone, and it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think they're going to get used to like stopping the run, and then they're going to be like, oh, we need to actually learn how to stop the passing too, because that's way harder. Thank you for joining us this week on this week's episode of the Wednesday Warmup. Join us next week as we are going into week 10 of the NFL season, which sounds super crazy. It's kind of flown by. We hope you enjoy this episode and join us next week.